Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Your immune system has many jobs, and right at the peak of all those jobs is protecting you from the outside world. So your immune system is designed so it can find and kill foreign invaders, like bacteria and viruses. So when it's working well, your immune system is strong enough to prevent you from getting sick when you're exposed to germs. But many factors can affect your immune system, like the way you sleep, what you eat, the supplements you might be missing in your diet, stress, alcohol, the amount of exercise you perform. So that's what we're going to cover in this episode. So welcome to our episode, 10 Factors That Affect Your Immune System. Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I'm also the senior scientific officer over here at Invite Health. I want to thank you for tuning into today's Invite Health episode. You can find all of our episodes, all of our podcasts for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or just visit invitehealth.com/podcast. You can leave a review and please subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. By the way, the information on this episode is linked at the episode description. And let's get going. So, one thing that really affects your immune system is the shape of your microbiome. That's all the organisms that live with us, that use us for a home. Now, that's mostly bacteria, and they're clocking between 700 and 1,000 bacteria that live with us, in us, and on us. But it's also many forms of yeast. They know at least 7 forms of yeast that commonly inhabit our intestines, and also many viruses. So we have a lot of visitors living with us, and they outnumber us manyfold. The number of human cells, depending on what you read, what expert, is somewhere between 20 trillion and 50 trillion. The number of bacteria living with us and viruses and yeast is somewhere between 100 trillion to 200 trillion. So they obviously impact our health, and they really do. For instance, when there's an imbalance in bacteria on your scalp, you get dandruff. When there's an imbalance of bacteria on your eyes, which happens to people that wear contact lenses, you get eye infections. On your skin, you get acne, pimples. Vaginally, yeast infections. Urinary tract infections, and so on and so forth. So you have to take care of the multitude of these organisms that live in your intestines. Those are the ones you can really shape. And that affects the bacteria that live on your skin. That affects the bacteria in your urinary tract, by your lungs, in your bloodstream, in the vaginal tissue, in the breasts. They go all over the place. They wind up migrating all over the body. Now, they're finding bad bacteria. And what exactly do I mean by bad bacteria? Well, there's 2 types, really. One of them are opportunistic organisms, like certain strains of yeast and certain really nasty bacteria, like certain strains of E. coli and Clostridium difficile and Klebsiella, that they're in your intestines, and if you don't have enough good bacteria to keep them under control, they grow a number and they cause really nasty infections. So that's one, opportunistic infections. But a second one is just bacteria that make you inflamed. And for instance, if you have enough bacteria in your intestines related to inflammation, we call them bad bacteria, that's what they're dubbed. They release these toxins that inflame the lining of your intestines, and you develop something called leaky gut syndrome. And what happens with that? Things that should be in your intestines that have no business being in your bloodstream are now leaching through and escaping into your bloodstream. And they're connecting that with a bunch of diseases. They're connecting that with systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid arthritis, and other health conditions, allergies, etc., food allergies. Why? Well, normally food is completely digested in your digestive tract, hopefully. and the good bacteria kind of finish up that process in your colon. If your gut lining is leaky, large molecules of food that are not completely digested escape into the bloodstream, and your immune system thinks it's a bacteria and attacks it, and the next time you eat that food, you have an allergy because you made antibodies to it. So they're also finding that bad bacteria, like in the gums, are related with heart disease, thickening and stiffening of blood vessel walls, possibly pancreatic cancer, like fusobacteria in your gums with pancreatic cancer. The wrong bacteria in the breasts inflame the breasts. So there's a lot of negatives to these pro-inflammatory bacteria. And why should this happen? First of all, like I said, they release toxins that affect you. But second of all, they confuse the immune system. And you have inflammation radiating out from the immune system that can affect your lungs, your heart, your liver, obviously your digestive tract, but also your brain. And it's bad. Now, on the other hand, when we say good bacteria, generally we're talking about bacteria that enhance your digestive health and also help control the immune system. And that's what we're finding. Certain strains of probiotic bacteria, when they study them, like Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies lactis, promote good immune system function to help fight off viruses and colds, even in very elderly people. For instance, older people, their natural killer cells are ineffective. They have plenty of them, but they're not working well. And these are like some of the first cells that recognize a virus or recognize a cancer cell, which of course sets them up for more severe viral infections if they're not containing it at an early stage, and obviously an increased risk of cancer. When you give Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies lactis, according to at least 5 human clinical trials in elderly people, within a week or two, the natural killer cell functions are working better. But also their Pac-Man cells. We've got a bunch of cells, macrophages, and polymorphonuclear leukocytes, also called neutrophils, that act like Pac-Man and gobble up bad things like viruses. They're kind of weaker in older people. They're just inefficient. When you give them the probiotic, that strain, they function better. And that's not the only strain that improves the immune system. So does Lactosporogenes, so does Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus rhamnosus. They all have a nice impact on the immune system. In fact, the Lactobacillus rhamnosus and the Lactobacillus plantarum have been shown to help calm down food allergies, food sensitivities, lactose intolerance, and also pollen allergies. So they really do kind of guide the immune system. When you have enough good bacteria, they contain the bad ones, and they calm down the immune system, and that helps with allergies, but that also helps the immune system fight off, crucially, what it should fight off, like cancer cells and other bacteria and viruses. So how do you help your good bacteria? Well, first of all, a really nice diet, like the Mediterranean diet. Low in sugar. You don't want the added sugar. You don't want all the salt, because that can kill off your good bacteria. You don't want all the fried food, not good for your digestive tract. You don't want the processed meats. That seems to be harmful to the gut bacteria too. So when you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and seeds and nuts and whole grains like brown rice, etc., that's food for the good bacteria. They do well. So I start off people with, hey, you have to change your diet if you want good bacteria and you want good health. The next step is add some fermented foods, like kefir, which is like a fermented dairy drink, or a really high quality yogurt. I'm not talking about those yogurts that taste like candy. I'm talking about real lumpy yogurt. And then take a probiotic on top of that. And that'll really help restore, if you pick the correct probiotic, it'll help restore many different bacteria, not just itself, but many other strains and species of bacteria. So your immune system, one of the number one things that affects it is your microbiome, because about 70% of your immune cells come in contact with your digestive tract. They're coming almost in direct contact with the bacteria. A second thing for the immune system, your sleep cycle. Really, really important. You have an internal clock in the back of your brain called a hypothalamus. It interacts with two other glands, the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary, to control hormones and many other things in the human body, including your internal clock, which we call your circadian rhythm. If you're going to bed at all different times, it throws off your sleep cycle. So can alcohol, so can exercising too late at night. With alcohol, you might fall asleep faster because it makes you sleepy, but you tend to wake up after a very short time, and then you can't get back to sleep, so it messes up your sleep cycle. So why is your sleep cycle important for your immune system? At night, your immune system's supposed to recharge. For instance, when you're in REM sleep, rapid eye movement, in REM sleep, it's about 25% of your whole night's sleep, like if you sleep 7 to 8 hours. In REM sleep, your whole body is kind of stiffening, except for your eyes and your breathing muscles, but all the rest of your muscles kind of stiffen. And that's when you do all your dreaming, but that's also an important part of keying in timing for your immune system. And then there's the deep sleep, the delta wave sleep. That's when you're building bone. A lot of things are happening that are good. That's very important for your memory, but it's also very important for your immune system, because your immune system is supposed to kind of recharge and rest at night. And then in the morning, when you're waking up, when your circadian rhythm is working appropriately, when you wake up naturally, your immune system comes into play. So why is that important? Well, at night, you're basically in a bed, encountering very few people at most, maybe your puppy, your significant other, but you're not in a crowded bus, you're not in a crowded train station, you're not sitting in an office with 50 other people. So the immune system kind of doesn't have to be as active at night. It has to be active in the daytime when you're out shopping and working and mixing up with other people and doing things. When your sleep cycle is inappropriate, the immune system gets muddled, and it might be more active at the wrong time and not as active and effective in the daytime when you're in contact with other people, making it easier to catch a virus or a bacterium. So besides your probiotic bacteria, we call it the microbiome, your good bacteria, your sleep cycle is really important for your immune system. Now, nutrients from food, like curry. Curry has turmeric in it. Turmeric has alkylamines. Alkylamines look like certain things on the outside of a virus, so it kind of wakes up the immune system and says, hey, there might be a virus around, let's get active. Or green tea. Green tea has polyphenols called catechins, the most important one being EGCG. The catechins are also alkylamines that notify the immune system that there might be a virus coming. But the green tea on contact weakens a lot of viruses. Viruses use different enzymes to attach to us and invade our cells and multiply and infect us, like hemagglutinin and neuraminidase. Green tea directly disables these enzymes, and it makes it harder for viruses like a flu virus or a cold virus to infect us. Plus, they've shown, like the University of Florida at Gainesville, when they did studies on green tea capsules during the winter in adults who had fewer colds, fewer flus, fewer cases of the flu, etc., they found that green tea mobilizes certain immune cells, like gamma delta T cells. Gamma delta T cells are a more obscure immune cell. T cells are very important because they control the immune system, so they call it into play to kill something, if it has to kill a bacteria or a cancer cell, and then they turn it off when it's done. Gamma delta T cells kind of organize the immune system. They're kind of an interplay between all the different disparate parts of the immune system. So green tea stimulates gamma delta T cells, but also interferons. Interferons early on in a virus cause your immune cells to multiply and attack the virus, but later on, they prevent your immune system from attacking your own body. So green tea has a number of activities. And mushrooms. Mushrooms have a number of things. They have ergotheanine, which is arguably the strongest natural antioxidant known to science. It's really not found in other foods. Ergotheanine is amazing because the body has specific pathways that absorb and hold on to ergotheanine, and ergotheanine adjusts itself to your needs. So if you live like in a place with really fresh air, the ergotheanine is less active in protecting your DNA inside your chromosomes from mutation and damage, and your cells from damage. But if you live in a place where you're breathing in a lot of pollution from cars and trucks and buses, the ergotheanine becomes more active, and it helps protect your cells from being damaged by what you're inhaling. So, mushrooms are a great food, but they also have vitamin D2, which is ergocalciferol. They also have beta-1,3-glucan and beta-1,4-glucan that help adjust the immune system. So there are things in food, mushrooms, green tea, high on my list, and curry, that are good for your immune system. Another thing for the immune system, cortisol. Cortisol, really important. Cortisol is a stress hormone. We release a bunch of stress hormones under different conditions. Like if we over-exercise, we release a lot. If we drink alcohol, we release them. But when we're stressed out. Now, normally you release cortisol for several activities. You release a little cortisol after normal physical activity to help remodel your muscles. You release cortisol in the morning to wake you up. It's one of the things the body releases to wake you up in the morning because it raises your blood sugar and it makes your heart beat faster and it squeezes your blood vessels to get more blood up to your brain and raise your body temperature. Because at night your body temperature and your blood pressure are supposed to drop a little bit. You want to restore that in the morning, so cortisol is released. There's these two little organs atop each kidney called adrenal glands, and one of their jobs is to release cortisol. And cortisol impacts a lot of things like your blood volume, so you're not really urinating when you're releasing a lot of cortisol. It makes your brain hyper aware. So for instance, if you're releasing a lot of cortisol at night because you're stressed out over work or something, it doesn't let you sleep because it's telling your brain, don't go to sleep, you're in danger. When actually you're not, you're just upset about something at work. But it also suppresses the immune system. And here's what happens. This is true. That's why when somebody has an autoimmune condition or severe inflammation, an autoimmune condition could be like rheumatoid arthritis or systemic lupus erythematosus, they give these people hydrocortisone or prednisone or Medrol dose pack to reduce the inflammation. That's just a stronger version of your human cortisol, your human stress hormones. They're called corticosteroids. In any event, when you keep on releasing cortisol and its cousins, because there's several of them that you're releasing from your adrenal glands, they push back on the immune system. That's one of the things they do. So if you're always stressed, they're always pushing back on the immune system, and eventually your immune system starts to ignore them. It learns to ignore the effects of the stress hormones. It's kind of like diabetics. Insulin doesn't work anymore in them. They're insulin resistant. Well, you become cortisol resistant. And what happens then, the cortisol can no longer contain inflammation that's triggered by the immune system. And they're finding that the inflammation gets into the brain and creates permanent pathways that lead to depression and especially anxiety. So cortisol also keeps you up at night. So how can you lower cortisol levels? Oh, by the way, cortisol increases your weight. If you eat food when you're calm, it's not as fattening as if you eat the same exact food when you're stressed out. Because cortisol packs calories onto your belly. That's one of the things cortisol does. Cortisol squeezes your blood vessels and makes your heart beat faster, so your blood pressure goes up. Cortisol takes sugar and increases your blood sugar. It takes sugar that's stored in your liver and puts it back into your bloodstream. Cortisol breaks down muscle and bone. Cortisol causes fat buildup. Like people who have high cortisol for an extended time, they develop dowager's hump. They start to get sort of a hump on their back of fat. It's a hump of fat. But it keeps you up at night. You can't sleep. So how do you reduce cortisol? Well, there's several things. CBD from hemp works reducing cortisol. Ashwagandha is supposed to, but I've never seen it work. I'm not a fan of ashwagandha. Ltheanine works. Ltheanine works really well. It's from the green tea plant, but you need enough of it. You can't really get enough out of a cup of tea. If you take 100 milligrams of Ltheanine, it really melts stress. So in the daytime when somebody's stressed out, I give them 100 milligrams. They could still drive. They could still use power tools. In fact, it helps them focus and be creative. But at night when you're stressed out, I tell people take 200 to 300 milligrams of Ltheanine, and it really starts to calm them down. Okay, I've got a lot more to talk about with 10 factors that affect your immune system. We've only covered 4 out of 10. So I better make this a 2-part podcast. So thanks for tuning in to the Invite Health Podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or visit invitehealth.com/podcast. We have well over 330 podcast episodes up to now. Please make sure you subscribe and please leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. Hope to see you next time on another episode of the Invite Health Podcast. Thank you so much for listening.